Welcome to the brand new episode of the Tech Ketchup Show. In this episode, we have with us Shreiya Chaudhary, who is a creative technologist, a TEDx speaker, and a technical product manager. In this episode, we have discussed intensively about a very disruptive technology, that is the augmented reality. We have also discussed a lot about creative designs and how they can actually transform the world around us. Do listen to this episode till the end and discover the world of augmented reality like never before. This is your host Kushak Srivastav, and see you on the other side. So welcome, ma'am, to the podcast, the Tech Ketchup Show, Nerd for Tech Originals, and we are honored to have you here. And just hope we have a great conversation and you have a great time with us.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, ma'am. So, I would start off with I was going through your LinkedIn profile and I also heard your TED talk. So, you introduced yourself as a creative technologist. So now, I also didn't figure it out until you explained what it actually meant. So just to begin and to break the ice of this entire podcast, I just wish to know so that our listeners can also get to know what actually is a creative technologist and what is your work as a creative technologist. So please.
Yeah, definitely. So, a creative technologist, as you can see, like even just with the name,
Yeah,
bridges that gap between creativity and technology.
exactly.
And it's something that I found while I was working before going for my master's that there would be this major communication gap between engineering and design teams.
Hmm.
Where and I realized that a or a product can't really be designed properly or created till the time an engineer doesn't understand how to design the functionality and a designer doesn't understand how it's actually going to function from a development point of view.
Hmm.
So a creative technologist is a person who basically wears multiple hats, who
Oh.
is from the beginning of just ideating with what the product is, who your stakeholders are,
Hmm.
what your target audience is, designing the entire strategy behind what is going to be what your end result is, and then working backwards by using technology to just aid that entire process
Hmm.
and also design the entire framework. So
Hmm.
starting from playing multiple roles and just starting with wireframes. Like I said,
Hmm.
multiple hats. I don't consider myself to be an expert at
Hmm.
all of these things, but I do feel I'm adept enough, or I'm basically knowledgeable enough to know what's right
Hmm.
or what's wrong from a user's point of view, and I'm technically sound to understand what technology needs to be adopted, whether it's something that we're all used to, which is just a web browser that
Hmm.
we have to work with by creating a website, or if we have to write our own machine learning algorithm which will
Hmm.
understand data patterns and accordingly cater the result to what the user wants. So,
Hmm.
or just understanding what needs to be used. You see,
Yeah.
like I think you coming from a technology background also understand that tech isn't just one thing.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
it's it's crazy what is possible or what isn't. But a creative
Exactly.
technologist lives with that entire opinion that nothing is impossible. You just need to know what needs to be applied when.
Yeah. So, whenever you are designing something, or whenever you are designing a product from a scratch, so what is the kind of thought process that you actually go through while designing, and from that ideation phase to a product that can actually be used? So, what is that entire journey like, and what are the thought process that actually helps you out, and you are actually using it for whenever you have to go through that?
I think it always first helps with understanding what is the need for this.
Hmm.
You don't want to create something that doesn't really have a need.
Exactly.
And so you need to understand who you're making it for. And you need to have multiple conversations with them. I had a very wise professor, Syed, who once told me that it's so much more important to design the product or project and strategize as to what you're doing than to actually build it, because that is where you're spending the most amount of time. And that is where you can apply agile methodologies where, you're work fast, fail fast.
Yeah.
So it helps with like understanding first what your need is, who you're making it for. Then imagine the best possible product that you can create, something that's unimaginable. And then start whittling it down. Start shaving off the extras. Don't be a feature freak. Then you come down to the MVP.
Yeah.
That, what is the most basic thing that I can create that will still delight my user.
Okay.
And then once that's done in the shortest amount of time, you start adding on fewer features, one at a time. And then you keep testing it with your user, because you have to understand that you are not your user. You are the creator. So you will always love what you're making and you will think it's amazing. But you need to make it in a way where your users' needs are being satisfied.
Yeah. So basically, the point is that we actually need to be in a close contact with the user, and we be like there has to be a close interaction with the user and with everyone who is using that product or can be a potential customer of the product.
Completely. So, for instance, right now I'm working with a health organization called Noura Health.
Okay.
And in that, imagine we are working with nurses and healthcare workers all across India, across 4 states, and we are creating tech projects for them, products for them.
Nice.
So even if it's an app, or even if I made an augmented reality app for them. I was the lead interaction designer, and in that too, we had to constantly keep talking to the nurses in understanding what do you need, because I will make something that I think is right from my lens or my point of view. But what do you actually need and how much time do you have? You're in the middle of a pandemic.
Exactly.
So how can I help you? That's where we fit in, right? As technologists.
Yeah.
We're trying to make people's lives easier.
Exactly. So whenever you are planning out some product, or whenever you are planning out some product, so like you must be having like some idea, or whenever you are getting those user feedbacks, you have some idea on what basis you need to design features for the product or the product itself. So now, like, how do you get that balance, so that the main motive behind the idea or the purpose that has to be served by the product doesn't get lost, and you actually get use the best technologies alongside to create a product that is market feasible also. So how do you get that balance?
I think it starts with, like I said, don't limit your imagination.
Okay.
I worked at a company called Little Bits that taught me that, where it was an edtech hardware company, which was all about the entire idea that a child should not be not allowed to invent or imagine, because children's imaginations are crazy, right? So
Exactly.
similarly, so we have to adopt that mindset too. We can't limit ourselves to what technology we have available. We need to understand that we can use whatever we want, but we have to aid other processes. We have to aid other emotions. We have to aid the final product. So, for instance, again, coming back to what I'm currently doing, in the middle of the pandemic, our country was under lockdown, and we had to practice social distancing. But at the same time, nurses needed to learn how to use and wear personal protective equipment. How do you teach that if you can't conduct trainings? That is exactly what Noura Health has been doing for so many years. So in this respect, I the only thing I could think of was augmented reality. That if you could transport an entire experience just by using other people's smartphones, by other nurses' smartphones, then you can teach them. Then you can accelerate the learning curve. Now, when you're coming to, how do you understand what to use or what not to use? Now, we need to understand that these nurses are in remote areas, or that they might not have the latest iPhone or Android phone. So then that is also when you have these amazing platforms like Eighth Wall, which allows you to use XR for any kind of mobile phone. It does limit the possibilities, but it doesn't mean that it becomes impossible. It just
Exactly.
becomes limited.
Exactly.
So we implemented eighth wall in that way. We could transport these learning experiences just in a flash, just in a
Hmm.
matter of days, to other nurses' phones, where they could see real life nurses or nurse models in their current surroundings, and they could see how those nurses have to wear or manage personal protective equipment.
Hmm. Wow. So we had a conversation before. Like you told that you are a self-taught programmer. So like, how did that transition from like all those product words? Because you still are designing products and all, but how did you get that motivation or that feel or that attraction towards like learning programming or coding for itself? So how did you get that, and like what were the challenges or key features that actually excited you to just thrive into those technicalities and all?
Yeah, I think it comes back to what I was saying right in the beginning, that there is this major gap, or there's just this
Hmm.
major difference between engineering and design teams.
Hmm.
And how do you communicate between the two?
Hmm.
Designers say that engineers don't really understand design, visual design. They don't know how
Hmm.
things need to look.
Hmm.
And engineers or development folks say that designers don't really care about what is actually possible. It's
Hmm.
crazy. Wait, we can't design this, and in this much time. So I think
Exactly.
while working at Comic Con or working at Zomato and working at Hello English, I kept seeing this difference, and it became slightly frustrating. And then I could see like the kind of experiences people were making otherwise.
Hmm.
And I've always felt that communication is a strong suit of mine.
Hmm.
So why not take advantage of that? And I personally love being a jack of all trades. So again, why not take advantage of that interest as well?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think from 2011 to 2016, I
Hmm.
was working and I was constantly finding this issue and finding this problem in being able to create the best of the best,
Hmm.
and only because I didn't understand what was possible.
Hmm.
I'll imagine something and I'll say that make it in a day.
Hmm.
And obviously I can imagine development people, now that I am one, like laughing behind the other person's back saying, come on. Like we can't code an entire
Yeah.
website in a day, or
Exactly.
like we're not going to do that for you. And actually at that time I was also an athlete, and
Yeah.
I think the good part is that it taught me patience. It
Hmm.
taught me how to be extremely patient with people, and to just trust the process. So I think that's
Hmm.
the time in 2016 I just decided that I wanted to learn how to code, and I needed to see what was possible. I did face a major issue in India because I was here and I was working, but I studied English literature for my undergrad,
Okay.
and not having a science background did not work with most people who were supposed to teach me, because they're like, you need to have a BTech degree at least. How are we
Yeah.
supposed to teach you otherwise?
That mindset really, yeah, that's the mindset at this current, like, if even if like a person who is doing engineering but is not from a CSE or IT background, even he is challenged by the society that how can you do things, or like, even like I personally feel this, like organizations are also a bit biased in like taking them as their employee even if the person is good with their skills. So like, yeah, that's the point.
Exactly, and that's something I didn't appreciate, and
Yeah, actually.
you know, but again, like I said, I was an athlete, and it teaches you how to fight.
Exactly, yeah.
And so like with my family support, I
Hmm.
they sent me to New York so that I
Hmm.
could they have these 3-month boot camps
Okay.
in which they'll teach you a few tech, a few libraries,
Hmm.
and so that you could understand the basics at least. From
Hmm.
there on you can learn on your own.
Hmm.
And when I was there, that's when I started learning JavaScript. Basics, obviously, HTML,
Hmm.
CSS, do it on your own. You're not a
Hmm.
child. And then learn JavaScript. I learned React. I started building games.
Hmm.
And the same professor who I mentioned earlier, Syed, he
Hmm.
taught me how to take code outside the browser. He said,
Hmm.
"Did you know that now you can even make physical things? You can make them
Hmm.
move. You can work with
Yeah.
IoT, Internet of Things."
Yeah.
And my first project was a really silly one, which was also very different from what we learn over here. I remember when I had to build my final project at that academy, I kept trying to think of something useful. Like that was my first purpose, that I need to make something that people are actually going to use, because that's how we're brought up, right?
Hmm.
That, and of course, like we are still trying to do that. But when you are teaching somebody or when you're starting to learn, that is not the mindset you should have. The
Hmm.
first thing you need to know is that build whatever you want. What makes you
Hmm.
happy? Whatever makes you happy will definitely make someone else happy.
Hmm.
So I built a remote fish feeder,
Oh wow.
which has no purpose. I don't think you don't think you need to measure how much a fish is eating, or you would, at least personally, I wouldn't care that much. But
Hmm.
that was my first IoT device. That
Okay.
I built a website that would control a motor anywhere else, that would allow a fish to be fed.
Okay.
But that's when I understood that it was making me so happy, and it was delighting everyone else around me, that this is such an
Hmm.
exciting cool thing. And that's
Yeah.
when I decided to delve into interactive technology. That
Oh.
if 3 months of learning how to code, from making simple web-based games, can
Hmm.
move to something physical like this, I have no idea what's possible. This is
Yeah.
crazy. I can't leave this now. So that's
Yeah.
when I went to NYU to study interactive technology.
Okay, great, great. So, ma'am, like you have been working for now in the domain of augmented reality. So, like, what can you just explain, like in most simplest of words, like what actually is augmented reality? And since a lot of people have that misconception, and they actually blend VR and AR together, and like they feel that both go hand in hand or something like that. So like, can you define that difference, that line which actually differentiates AR with VR on the basis of ideation and as well as on the basis of implementation?
Sure. So, coming to the first point that you said,
Yeah.
ideation. So, VR means virtual reality. So, if
Hmm.
you break it down, it is an entirely virtual environment that has been made by you or me
Hmm.
for the user. It
Hmm.
also requires a headset.
Hmm.
VR is virtual. You cannot, we live in real worlds. You cannot enter a virtual world from here. So
Hmm.
you have to wear the headset. When you wear the headset, you will enter a man-made world.
Okay.
So in implementation as well, it will always require hardware.
Okay.
Augmented reality, and this is why I appreciate it so much as well, is more accessible, because almost everyone has a smartphone.
Hmm.
And augmented reality allows you, so basically, to augment means to superimpose something, to add something new.
Okay.
So augmented reality will take your smartphone, ask you if you can turn your camera on for it, and you'll be looking at your entire environment. You'll be looking, so like if you're looking at me right now and you're looking at the door over here,
Hmm.
and if you would be looking through your camera's phone via an augmented reality app, you will see a person standing over here.
Oh.
So I have superimposed, I have added something new to my
Hmm.
physical space, which I
Exactly.
appreciate, because then you're not taking the user away from reality,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
and you're just adding new elements. And augmented reality is also, it's going crazy with its development, because now it can understand depth. Now it can understand surfaces, and
Okay.
so much more is possible.
Hmm.
So, in terms of ideation, augmented reality always helps when you want to build something quick and which you want the user to experience sooner, so that you
Hmm.
can deliver it via an app or even a link. And virtual reality does help when you want the user to enter a whole new space.
Hmm.
I've been seeing it working in healthcare as well, where you want to use it in a therapeutic way, or you want the user to enter a whole new environment to experience. Say, imagine like walking on the moon.
Oh
What would
wow.
that be like? Or like going on a roller coaster. You're sitting
Yeah.
over here, but you'd like to be somewhere else. So you have to recreate that whole environment. You can also recreate history with that. Augmented reality allows you to use where you are. You will always see your surroundings, but something new in that.
Okay. Wow. So like my next question was actually a part of like what you answered. So like you have been, like you told that you have been working with museums and trying to implement that AR technology. So like how actually you are leveraging, like how you are actually helping those museums with AR. So I can imagine a bit of picture like what the work actually would be, but if you can just break it down.
Yeah. So before the pandemic, at least, or at least in museums in India that I saw, which are like, I don't know if you saw my thesis, but sorry, there's going to be a little bit of disturbance because I have a
No,
dog.
no.
But so in India, at least, we have audio guides.
Hmm.
And audio guides they can't keep track of your progress. And
Hmm.
they can't really see what you're looking at, whether you're getting it, how much can you convey in 10 minutes. Think about it.
Hmm.
Audio will only be able to convey so much, but
Hmm.
audio visual can do so much more. It's like a movie compared to a song.
Exactly.
And so in India, we have these audio guides, and someone like you and I, we are from India. So
Hmm.
when we go to a fort or we go to a palace, we already have some context,
Hmm.
and we understand because we studied history in school, so we
Hmm.
understand what it was like for kings and how they ruled and what their
Hmm.
rooms were like. But imagine somebody who's only going to be coming there once, somebody
Hmm.
really old, who's only, and maybe
Yeah.
they're traveling from a different country. They made this whole plan to go to this fort, and they're only going to experience it once, and how much are they going to get in those 10 minutes with an
Yeah.
audio guide? They look at the room and they'll say, "Oh, pretty room." And then they'll walk away. But do they
Hmm.
actually get our history?
No. Yeah.
So, this is why I felt augmented reality was so important, because you are utilizing the space, you are utilizing how beautiful our architecture is, and you are adding elements that belong to the past. That's the puppy. But so that way you are recreating history, you're bringing it back
Hmm.
to life, and you are traveling back in time in a way. And
Exactly.
not just this particular reason that I gave, I also feel that you don't know how things are going to turn out. You've seen
Hmm.
2020,
Yeah.
pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So natural disasters may occur at any point.
Yeah.
And what will, and as careful as we can be, and we can take precautions, what do we do about our historical monuments?
Hmm.
That's our heritage. How do we preserve it for generations to come? But
Yeah.
now with technology, we can digitally archive them, but we can create 3D
Yeah.
models that generations later on would be able to experience. So
Exactly.
this is where I feel augmented reality comes in. You
Wow.
can experience an entirely new place, an entire history or a story wherever you are, just through your smartphone.
Wow. So, like, ma'am, what I feel actually that augmented reality is is actually going to take the user experience to a whole new complete level, and like whatever we are consuming right now in 2D dimensions, it is going to be somewhat a different kind of a experience. So, like, as someone who is involved in designing such stuffs, how do you feel like how do a consumer is going to accept this kind of a technology, and then what kind of a mindset, what kind of a change in mindset will occur, and like how the user experience thing will be redefined when augmented reality becomes more and more you basic thing in the society.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's been a slightly difficult ride with getting users to adopt it, but that's
Hmm.
also because, like anything else, like even when the internet came, or
Hmm.
when computers were created, then
Exactly.
they were heavy. So
Hmm.
similarly with an AR app, I personally also still see this problem of you know the app being too heavy to transport or to
Hmm.
use.
Hmm.
And so, but in this case, we have something like WebAR
Hmm.
that promises to make it more accessible, where it's just a
Hmm.
web link. You don't have to download an app. I feel that also there's a problem that we face, which is coming with data security. That
Hmm.
we don't want to download apps that might hurt our privacy, or we don't want to turn on our cameras because we don't know what's being recorded.
Hmm.
But I do think that we have to take it step by step, just like how it came back to designing a product.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
have to do it slowly. I do feel that web AR is currently the future with adoption. It is
Okay.
easier to get someone to use it with web AR. It's just a
Hmm.
link. You're opening it through your phone's browser. And
Hmm.
then if you enjoy the experience and you enjoy what you are seeing and you're actually learning something from it, then it makes sense for an app to be created
Yeah.
so that the user would want to invest those many MBs in the app.
Exactly. So, like, ma'am, it is our tradition at our podcast, the Tech Ketchup Show. So, we like our guests to just suggest some resources, anything, any book, any article, any speaker, anything which has actually helped you personally grow as a better person or as a better technologist or something like that. So, please, if you can.
I think I would just want to recommend people's works that
Okay.
I really feel would help.
Okay.
At least like in the domain of augmented reality,
Hmm.
Roy Lear,
Okay.
he was my senior in at NYU, and he created an augmented reality app called Inventing America. He
Oh.
has been working at a company now which is in Israel, but he
Okay.
also worked with Eighth World. Another resource I feel that will just hold so much promise as a company with making AR
Hmm.
accessible to all of us in terms of even learning or implementing is Eighth Wall. But Eighth Wall technology
Hmm.
promises to make augmented reality accessible via what I said, XR, which will work on
Hmm.
any kind of phone. So you have the possibility of using AR Kit or AR Core or AR Foundation, which works for both
Hmm.
iPhone and Android.
Hmm.
But Eighth Wall covers the entire space where
Okay.
it doesn't matter, especially since we're in India and we want to make it
Hmm.
accessible and we don't want to scare the user.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Eighth Wall is great for asking users to experience AR via the web. Eighth Wall is great for XR, which allows them to use it via any mobile phone. I took
Hmm.
Roy Left's name, who is, according to me, amazing. But
Okay.
other than that, I feel more than thinking about it from the technology,
Hmm.
think about your idea.
Exactly.
Think about your concept. Think about your
Yeah.
concept and don't think of technology as your main goal.
Hmm.
Think of it as just an aid. Like we
Okay.
discussed, there's so
Yeah.
many things that you.
Yeah.
I'm like currently at Noora Health. I'm also working on a healthcare worker bot, which is based on WhatsApp, and we're trying to integrate Dialogflow with that. Dialogflow is Google's machine learning
Yeah.
process. So, don't contain yourself to the technology. Think of the bigger
Hmm.
picture. You want
Yeah.
doctors to be able to just, type in their requirement and
Yeah.
type in an entire message as if they're talking to a person, and they should get an answer.
Okay.
Tech should be looked at as a friendly resource,
Hmm.
not not as something difficult. Nobody should be afraid of tech.
Yeah. So well, that was great, ma'am, having you on the show, and it was a great session. I hope you
Yeah,
enjoyed.
I
Uh,
did. I did. This is great.
Thank you, ma'am. So to all the listeners who are listening to us on any kind of platform, just like, share, subscribe to the Tech Ketchup Show, a Nerd for Tech Originals. And this was Kushak Srivastav, your host. Until next time, goodbye.
Thanks for having me.